Hi, I'm Mia Friedman, and this is No Filter. You know that saying, if you want something done, ask a busy woman? Well, that could have been written about my guest today. George McEncroe is a kick-ass single mum of 4 teenagers from Melbourne. She's also an ex-teacher, ex-radio host, and sometimes she's a stand-up comedian. In 2016, George was working several jobs and saving for a house deposit after her divorce when she decided to join Uber as a driver. She registered a few times, but always found herself pulling out at the last minute because she was worried about the risks involved driving at night. Think about it. At night, a lot of your passengers are drunk, most of them are men, and that's probably the reason why only a tiny percentage of Uber's drivers are women. So she decided to make her own all-female ride-sharing app for women drivers, women passengers, and kids. After a few all-night planning sessions, untold amounts of hard work, throwing in her life savings and convincing family and friends to invest in her ambitious lady startup idea, Shebah was born. So how do you go about launching your own Uber? How do you even build an app? And is she a billionaire yet? Here is George McEncroe, a woman who is truly trying to make the world a better place for women and girls.
Hello there.
How are you?
I'm good, Dal. How are you?
I'm so excited to be talking to you and meeting you finally.
I'm so excited. I know. We've had a lot of exchanges via the email and the Twitter and the whatnot.
We haven't. We've got so many friends in common.
I know, it's ridiculous.
But we haven't met. First and foremost, congratulations. I am in awe of what you have achieved. And I remember speaking to you in the early days.
Yeah.
And being so impressed with your naive optimism, which I think is the way we all start our businesses. If you don't have naive optimism, I just don't think you ever start.
You don't do anything.
No.
You just, cynicism is so cheap and I'm so bored with it. It's so easy to sit back and throw rocks. Like, get in the arena.
Do you remember the first inkling you had that this was a business?
Yes, I knew from the minute I had the idea that this was going to be a business. I just had, it might sound quite arrogant, but I knew when I first thought of it, and I madly composed, it was a bit of a manic state, I think. I like to think of myself as some Amadeus creature, but I just worked frenetically on it at home for 3 days and nights. I just couldn't sleep. I was just sketching it all out. I wrote my mission statement, which hasn't changed. I wrote...
What's your mission statement?
That women would have a safe and affordable way of embarking on the world. And that's how I wanted it to be, as drivers and passengers. That's what I wrote, driving down Punt Road. And
what sparked the idea in the first place for you?
It was me having twice registered to drive for Uber and twice felt too scared to do it. And my daughter hitting her party pants and heading out at night time and thinking, getting those calls saying, I can't find my friends, or so-and-so's hooked up and, I can't get hold of her. Can you come pick me up? And thinking this, and then her rejecting taxis and ride shares altogether and just deciding that she'd rather be feet on the street. She and her friends adopted this phrase that they felt safer being feet on the street than in a small car with a bloke they didn't know. And I thought of all the women I knew who would love to be having some of their emotional labour, I suppose, monetised, and saying, when I started looking into it and thinking, well, women are 4% of the cab drivers. They're less than 10% of Uber drivers. It's a $6 billion industry and women aren't getting a crack of that. Women are 60% of the consumers in this space. We all are stretched for time. And it's not just at that end, it's people like me when I was in full-time work thinking if a call went out from the school, it came to me as mum. So-and-so's, tripped on a gum nut and has been, we think he's a bit wobbly. Can you come pick him up? There's a dental appointment. There's this. So my day would be interrupted. So what we've found that's been the biggest sort of social impact for us as a company is the women writing to us saying, I can now take up that full-time job because your service exists. I've saved 90 hours a week on the road because your service exists. My daughter can take up her rowing scholarship because we can get her safely to the river without exhausting us as an entire family to do that. So, one woman gets to earn some coin while perhaps she's studying, another kid gets to pursue her career as an athlete, and another family gets to sleep and stay sane without building resentment amongst the other children because mum and dad are up at 4 o'clock looking after the golden child to get to the pool or the rowing sheds or whatever it might be.
Well, first of all, what roughly percentage of Uber drivers are women, and what is it about that made you feel unsafe and those 2 times decide that you just couldn't be an Uber driver?
Well, roughly it's about 10%. It's very hard to get data from a private company. They don't have to disclose what their numbers are, but what we can gauge roughly is it's between 10%. In the United States, they say it's more like 15%, something like that. The latest data that I have been able to get shows that even where it is 15%, women still earn about 40% less in other rideshare platforms where they pick up men. And the reason that is that they tend not to drive at night. And the reason that is because you're more likely, we use these services when we're drinking, usually. Otherwise we drive our own car. So if you're going to pick up somebody who's inebriated and he's a big, strong fella and he's maybe got a couple of mates and you're in a confined space and you're travelling at 100 kilometres an hour, a guy might start touching himself or getting his gear off or groping a driver or just making really offensive comments. Often actually it's the comments that disturb a driver and stay with her longer than the physical assault. And that then the public responds, and you'd know this, Mia, like I've worked in sort of fairly conservative talkback radio before. There'll always be an element in our community that would say, rightly or wrongly, well, what did she expect? Yeah. She's out at night in a car driving drunk blokes home. Certainly there is a foreseeable element to this fate, that this shouldn't happen, but it's a foreseeable outcome that perhaps it's not women's work. And that's what made me think, well, that's just bullshit. Women should be able to enter any sector, any workplace, and it's such a great job for women. It's so flexible. Women are cheaper to insure. They have fewer car accidents. They, that they're great drivers. They have multiple responsibilities. It's such a perfect job to go, beautiful, I've got 2 hours free. Bang, turn on the app.
Do it during school hours.
Yeah.
During school holidays.
My husband's home, a couple of hours free on a Friday night. I don't really want to sit down and join him on the couch and watch Friday night footy, but actually I wouldn't mind going out and helping some girls get home safely from a nightclub.
Because there's a social aspect, I guess, as well. If you're a woman driving women,
it's fantastic.
Chats would be better.
The chats are hilarious and the girls love it. And also with our company, you can drive with your baby in your car too. So, as long as you ring your passenger and say, hey, Mrs. Kafoops, I hope you don't mind, I've got my toddler on board with me today. And they'll say either, actually, I've got a full car, sorry, or they'll say, look, that's fine, I don't mind. So as yet we haven't had one passenger say, that doesn't suit, because usually you're just picking up one person.
Yeah.
It's rare that you're picking up a whole carload. So, unless you're doing a nighttime drive, in which case people don't take their babies with them. But yeah, so it's a really unique female lens, I suppose, as approach to this sector.
Have you had pushback?
Well, what would you reckon? A little bit. A little bit.
I'm so shocked, George.
I know. But look, honestly, not initially quite a lot. And then
From who? Besides taxis, obviously, who don't like ride-sharing services at all.
A few men have been cross about it. A few women have been cross about it.
Wait. Let's break this down. Why are the men cross?
Why isn't there a men's only rideshare service? When are you inventing Shebah? And I said, well, when you want to invest all your money from your divorce into an app, I will show you exactly how to go about setting that up and give you all the support you like.
Good comeback.
Knock yourself out. And other people who say it's discrimination, to which I say, correct, it is. And well done, top of the class, 10 out of 10. It is. And here's why it is. Because sexual assault discriminates against women. Rape happens to women, and it does happen to men, but it largely happens to women by men.
What a great response.
It does. And if you can tell me how Shebah makes men less safe, I will shut down the app tomorrow.
And then what do they say?
And breathe, and then there's a long yawning silence. And then I say to them, if there is a place where women feel safer to have a dance, or, you know, if there's a gay nightclub down the road that I'm not welcome to go to, but I respect that my gay brothers like to get amongst it, and I accept that they are a community that have experienced harassment and violence and death because of who they are, I am not having a lesser fun time at my pub just because they're having a Bronski beat night down the road. So we can all, there isn't a finite fun pie, and my taking a slice has taken their slice away. So you can understand that, yes, that is a discriminatory act, but it doesn't mean that my life is now ruined, destroyed, diminished. I'm not being accused of being homophobic by virtue of them having to have their night. And I'm not saying that you, sir, are a rapist or a predator by accepting that there are in the world rapists and predators. And also I'm not saying that rapists and predators exist within those services. I'm saying that there are women, if we accept that 1 in 5 women have been assaulted sexually, violently, that their experience of transport matters enormously. So even if it didn't happen in a car by a cabbie or an Uber driver, the fact that it's happened to her at all might affect the way in which she interacts with the world. So let's make that experience as easy, as comfortable, as relaxing for her as possible. Yay! Let's all shake hands.
Do women have the same complaints? The women who've given you a hard time?
You just always get a few of those colonised women who just want to say, this is discrimination, this is discrimination, this is, they just haven't really
Do you have a canned response where you can just go, press 1 for my speech about discrimination?
Well, kind of. And then I also have this fabulous thing, which is block ban user. That's so
good, isn't it?
It's so good. And realising that my Facebook page isn't a discussion page. I am running a business. You can not download the app.
There's an idea.
There's an idea. And then, go to your whinge fest and do whatever you want to do. But this isn't, you don't have to use it. There are lots of services. And when people say, why don't you take couples? We say, because Uber takes couples, cabs take couples, GoCatch takes couples. There are fantastic services available for couples. Knock yourselves out. This is for girls travelling with other girls or travelling by themselves, and for families travelling to the airport who need a baby capsule.
Tell me how the usage for kids and how you realised, what part of the business that makes up, transporting kids around.
Well, that was always a really big part of it, right? Because, being on my own with 4 kids is really hard. And I just saw that there were so many women who have a Caesar and are left alone, and there's very few restrictions on insisting that baby capsules be put, in other services. And in Queensland, in fact, you don't have to have in any capsules or anything. You can put a baby on your knee, which I just find horrific. So what I think people tend to do then is just not go out. So they just stay home. And then there were a couple of businesses started up where they were charging $95 for 20 minutes for the use of a car with a baby capsule, which is just daylight robbery. But of course, if it's there, you feel like, we'll pay it because it's our baby and it's our most precious thing, so that's what we'll do. And I thought, well, that was completely extortionist. So we thought, well, we'll just put in, $10 plus GST, $11. We've got a lot of young mums who've got baby capsules sitting there. They know how to flick them around and use them and install them safely. And that's going into the app now as a pre-booking functionality. You can book up to 6 capsules if you want. So we've got lots of big families. Different cultures have, really big families, and you can really
6 capsules in one car.
Yep.
Oh, my Lord.
Oh, I've seen
I want to
them.
send those people flowers just for needing 6 capsules.
Well, I had to have 3. I had 4 kids under 5. So at one stage I had 3 kids in bolted capsules across a Mitsubishi.
Wow.
Yeah, my back's still rooted. Don't do it. It's a bad idea.
Yeah, I can imagine. How old are your kids now?
They're now... tricky question. We shouldn't have had all that alcohol. No, 19. Bridget is 19. Joseph is 18. Patrick is 16. And Toby is 14.
4 teenagers. That must be easy.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. They're actually really ace. Like, they're really fun, and they're really funny, and they just tease me so much.
Yeah,
and
no one tells you that about having kids. How much shit they give you, but how amusing it can be.
I was telling my son Patrick off the other day. He said, "Don't flat forward me." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Oh, you're giving me the flat forward." And apparently it's this face I pull when I'm really mad at him. And he just lost it, because I didn't know that I did it. But once I recognised, now I feel myself doing it all the time.
Flat forwarding.
Yeah, that's my really serious face.
What's the business model for Shebah? How do you make money, and how do the drivers make money?
Okay, so the drivers get 85% of their return, so they keep 85% of the fare, and we take 15% out of that, and all the fares are inclusive of GST. So the passenger pays the GST, which is unlike some competitors where the passengers aren't charged the GST. Won't name them. And our drivers...
Why aren't they charged the GST?
Don't know.
Oh. So they don't pay GST?
They pay it, they're just not given it to pay. It just comes out of the driver's pocket. So we charge the GST to the passenger, which is how GST is meant to work. You charge the person, and then the driver holds onto it to then hand over to the government. Mm-hmm. So all our drivers are registered with the ABN and registered for GST. Mm-hmm. And they get a half-hour consultation with a financial consultant through us to help set up their business and to be told about what they should be setting aside for super, for anything to do with, if they're the sole provider, what they might need to look at for injury insurance or accident, if they need to be taken out of the workforce for any time. We're introducing a minimum fare so that, there'll be a flat rate minimum fare for all our drivers. And so that's how the business works. And then we take our percentage of that. So it's pretty basic. And then we set up a big community of drivers. So our aim is to never lose a driver. That's our aim, is to build a really strong community network of drivers. And they've been doing that pretty amazing job themselves. They really stick together. We partner them with a new driver, with a more experienced driver when they start, and have a lot of driver meetups and get-togethers. Who
are some of the women who drive for you? Like what are some of the reasons that women drive for you? And what stages of life? It's
so varied. But look, so we did a report recently for the Queensland government. So the average age of our driver is 50. And we need to recruit some younger ones, but our youngest driver is 22, our oldest driver is 72. So that gives you an age of the spread of the ages. But the average age is 50. So it's a lot of women, I suppose, who have come out of raising their own children and sort of looking after older parents, and they're either working full time and looking to do some extra work over the weekends or in the evenings. Lots of people with teenage kids themselves who are really looking for that sort of dough. But we've got 2 dentists, we've got dog trainers, we've got people who are running their own businesses. So we also provide another platform where people can sort of do their own trade and exchange of their own business network. So we've got people who are selling other things online. So we really want to make it a great sort of forum of business exchanges as well, and really use it as a contract space so that they can swap cards from bookkeepers to florists to beauticians, just a bunch of different students, full-time students, writers. So Jane Clifton's one of our beautiful drivers. She drove me yesterday to a meeting. You know, she just finished her first draft of her latest book. She's about to sit down and start doing the hideous process of reviewing her novel. But she loves it. So we're getting more and more writers and people like that who just need to get out of their headspace, and then she'll go.
Yeah, and things, I mean, the way I suppose the workforce is these days, it can be quite socially isolating, you know, if you're retired or if you're a writer or if you're someone who works from home. I know that one of the things I really struggled with was the loneliness, having come from a office with lots of people. When I started working from home, when I started Mamma Mia, I was super, super lonely.
It's really lonely, and you get bored. And we've also got people too who I think have come out of trauma. So we've got quite a few women who've been through family violence. We've got quite a few women who've been through a major life event like surviving a cancer, divorce. They're resetting their lives. So we set all our drivers up with little referral cards to other services, but they're also for themselves as well. So we don't want drivers sitting there in a driveway when they've got their, you know, dinner in the oven at home thinking, oh, I've got to counsel this young woman through her whatever life event it is. So we make sure they've got good advice to send them to 1-800-RESPECT or Lifeline or
Does that come with the territory? I imagine. I hadn't thought of that. But of course, women are instantly intimate, and you often will disclose things to your hairdresser or the person who's driving you. That's how women connect, right?
Especially driving. They're sitting in the front seat for the first time with a warm, maternal, loving person. You've had a couple of wines and you're feeling cozy and the car's warm and comfortable, and you start sharing with someone, and we think, oh, we don't want that.
How do you get the person out of the car?
You give them a referral card and you go back and watch Desperate Housewives. And that's what we say to them. We want you back in front of the TV eating your mental Mars bar of the Kardashians, and we don't want you sitting here thinking that you have to suddenly be, you know, doing in treatment. You know, you're earning for yourself. This is your time to drive, and you don't have the skills. Two, you don't have the time. So
you've got such a strong vision for your business, and you've got such a history and a through line through your career of advocacy for women and, people who've been marginalised. How do you, now that you're a businesswoman, balance that with some of the tougher decisions you have to make as someone who's running a startup?
Yeah, it's really hard, Mia. It's the hardest bit. It's where I need good people around me. So I've had a few meetings. So I did a pitch night recently.
Which you won?
Which I won. Okay.
Just quietly.
At Startup Victoria. And I've had some meetings with some people who are really good in this area, and like it's become really apparent to me what my weak spots are, and making, the thought of hurting other people is very, very difficult for me, or upsetting people and putting what the business needs, which is an extension of me, like my needs first, doesn't come naturally. It's hard. So yeah, it's a really tough thing, and I'm going to have to work on it. Like, as a new teacher, I remember my first principal saying to me, authority is like a muscle. The more you use it, the bigger it will get, Miss McEncroe. And I thought, okay, I have to think along those lines. Like, the more I do it, the more it'll get better, and the more processes I just have to work on it.
That's true. But there will always be things that you just really don't enjoy and that you are not good at. And it's awesome if you can hire against your weaknesses or partner against your weaknesses, or find ways to let what you're good at and what you love empower the business. So
what did you do? So when you found out, this is my weakest suit, how do I do this?
Yeah. I was so buried because, it's called, as you would be very familiar with, the deep trough of pain when you're in a startup, and you fall into the deep trough of pain so many times, and I still do. And each time, even just being able to articulate that it's the deep trough of pain helps, because you can go, it's the deep trough of pain. It's not permanent, but it feels permanent. So after about 1.5 years, I was in the deep trough of pain and didn't even realise that, and didn't even like a frog in boiling water. Didn't even know how I would have got out of it. So it happened that my husband was looking for something he'd sold his business and was looking for something to invest his time in, and thought, oh, maybe I could invest it in what's in my lounge room. So he came on board. Nice. And we have very different skills, and that's what enabled us to, I happened to marry the person who had the skills that I didn't have. And then as you get bigger, and you can afford to hire people to plug those gaps. And 8 years down the track, we were able to hire a managing director who could then do some of the stuff that neither of us either wanted to do or were good at doing.
Yeah.
So look, as a founder, it's a constant exercise in, why did I start this? What am I best at? What can I give the business that will be the best for the business and the best for me?
Yeah, and what needs to be done?
Yeah.
Like, what can I'm a good triager. So I think that comes from sort of having had, 4 kids and working in the areas that I've been in. I'm like good at going, okay, this one has to be done right now. So we've had a family violence issue. We've got a driver who's panic stricken. She's on the road. Bang, what do we do now? So, okay, let's get her on the phone. Is she safe? Is she okay? We've got to report that to DHS. We've got to report that to the police. We've got to form an incident report. Okay, we don't have a form for the incident report yet. That was meant to be done last month. We've got to follow up on that. I've got to have a talking to the, So, right, done.
Oh,
good.
man,
That's a procedure place that we have to have. But that was a good reminder. It was all sorted, and I always take these things as good signs to give you the tap to say, yeah, you should have followed that through. You let that one slip through to the filter. And then not beating myself up too much, but to say I have to get a daily list of things that working in the business and on the business. And as we scale up and get bigger, it's identifying, okay, that was a hole before. We've filled that, now where are the new holes? Because it is a game of whack-a-mole. It is.
Isn't it?
It's just, oh, bang, that one's now.
It's like parenting in that way, particularly with 4 kids, I imagine. It's who needs me? It's triage, as you say. It's triage. Women are very good at triage, but it takes a toll.
It does. And when you don't have someone at home to, pat your forehead and rub your back and tell you what a great job you've done, or I just come home to more criticism and I go to talk about the business and I go, oh,
flat
that's
forward.
all I say. I'll just flat forward. They just don't want to hear about my business. They go, oh, shut up about Shebah. We don't care.
Yeah, we hear a lot of that at home too.
Ev's mum. Is this? And they'll press and go, is this a Shebah story? Can you just? Okay. Can you just not tell? Can you ring one of your friends? We don't want to. Okay.
So, you've had a baby.
Your life will never be the same.
Your boobs will never be the same.
And you're probably thinking, how do I do this? I'm Holly Wainwright.
And I'm Christy Hayes. And between us, we've got 4 kids.
Under 7. And between us, we want to get you through the first year of your child's life unscathed.
From the moment that your baby comes out to the first birthday, we're here with you.
For all those important milestones, like the first time your baby vomits in your mouth.
Or the first time someone else tells you how to parent your baby.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Oh, Year 1. It's your real life guide to getting you through your baby's first year.
Year 1 is made possible by Philips Avent Baby Products. And you can find us on Facebook at Year 1 with Baby.
Out now. Subscribe in iTunes or the Mamma Mia podcast app.
I've just downloaded the app. Tell me, and I'm so excited to use it and get everyone in our company using it. Tell me how big you are now, how easy it is to find a Shebah driver, and from where I can find one.
Okay, so Sydney is still growing. So Melbourne is booming, Brisbane and Gold Coast going really well. Sunshine Coast has started. Sydney is still slow to the grow, and I think that's because the tolls haven't gone in yet. They'll be in mid-August. So we launched with minimum viable product, and I think
what's the tolls? What do you mean?
Well, in other apps, or not, it's not in GoCatch, but in other apps you can put like the tolls get taken into account by the app as you go through. And we weren't able to afford that when we first launched the thing. So the drivers have to pay the tolls. So I think some drivers, have not joined up with Shebah in Sydney at the rate that they were joining up in other cities. So we've got, we're growing in numbers in Sydney and the CBD. We've got plenty of drivers joining up in Penrith and Blacktown, but in Sydney CBD we've only got about 60 drivers now. So we want to get that number up to about 120. So in Queensland we've got 225 drivers. Between Brisbane and the Gold Coast. In Melbourne, we've got about the same, but Sydney is just we started a bit slower and we haven't had the tolls in. And I think because people do have to cross the harbour so much and stuff to get around, it does make a big difference. So when that functionality goes in, I think it'll be easier. But there is
How far away is that functionality?
That'll be ready 15th of August. So very soon.
A few weeks.
Yeah, a few weeks. That's going to happen really soon. Yeah. So it's only a few weeks away, but I'm hoping if my market research is right, that should bring drivers across pretty darn quickly.
You originally wanted to call this business Mum's Taxi.
Yeah, and everyone gave me shit about it and said that's the worst name I've ever heard.
Aren't people helpful? I mean, Shebah's a phenomenal name. How did you come to that? Mum's Taxi was great too.
Thank you, Mia. I have kept the
George.
domain name on that, but my friends who are wise and cruel women, but did say to me, that is the frumpiest, like, I'm not a mum, I want to drive, and they're like, it's like...
they're very literal, aren't they?
Oh, they're so mean, and they're very, they hate the word mummy blogger or mumpreneur or anything to do with mummy. And I go, okay, fair enough. Right. So I copped it on the chin. And then Shebah came in a dream. So that was the best thing.
Shebah's fantastic.
I woke up and went, oh, thank you, brain, ticking away. Because I love the Queen of Shebah, and I studied her in RE when they tried to help us with our Catholicism and just made us all just go, well, hang on, so if I was born in India, I'd be a Hindu. Oh, you mean if I was born in, Thailand, I'd be a Buddhist? Oh, so it's all just totally random. Like, I'd barrack for Collingwood if I was born into it was just, I did multi-religious studies at a Catholic school, and we all just went, oh, you mean it's all just...
it's all just basically the same thing.
Yeah, that's right. So we studied the Queen of Shebah, and I loved her, and there she was, and I just thought... And then I went back and checked her story, and it was as I'd remembered. She travelled on her own to meet King Solomon and challenge the conventional wisdom of men. And I just thought, wow, she's perfect. And then there's this other text that I hadn't seen, which is where she has a child to Solomon and raises him in the kingdom of Shebah as a single mother. So I just thought, yeah, thank you. Thanks, Dreams.
Well, we will do whatever we can to help and support you. You and I will continue this conversation offline so that I can make sure that we're putting Mamma Mia's full weight and support behind what you're doing, because I think it's such a phenomenal thing for women. And, our core purpose is to make the world a better place for women and girls, and that's just so aligned with what you're doing. And congratulations.
Thank you so much for having me have a chat today.
Lots of love.
Oh, thanks, Dal.
Mamma Mia supports the vital work of Rise Up, a community-based group that is there to help women and children fleeing from domestic violence situations and make their lives a little bit easier. Become part of the community that makes a massive difference by liking and following Rise Up in Facebook. Thanks for listening to No Filter. Download the Shebah app from your app store. Since recording this podcast with George, I have been to Melbourne, I downloaded the app, and I took 2 sensational rides with Shebah drivers. One was called Sia and one was called Gail. And we had the best chats. I taught Gail how to download a podcast. She's now a Mamma Mia podcast listener, and she's probably listening to this now. Hi, Gail. And it was just such a fabulous experience. I just really, really loved it. I felt like I was doing something to support women. I just felt good about it, and my ride was great. It was cheap. From Melbourne to the airport, from Melbourne, Toorak Road, this sort of South Yarra, it cost $59. So it's well priced, and the women who drive for Shebah receive much more than anyone who drives for Uber. The Shebah app is currently available in Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne, and is looking to expand further. If you want to subscribe to any of our podcasts, I hope you're subscribed to this one. Please download the Mamamia podcast app in the App Store or go wherever you find your podcasts. You'll find loads of Mamamia podcasts. There's our Out Loud podcast where you have a woman in her 40s, that's me, 30s and 20s talking about the news of the week. We've got a pregnancy podcast called Hello Bump. We have a podcast called Year One for everyone going through that very tough first year of parenting. We have a podcast called The Well with Beck Sparrow and Robin Bailey, who are two women in their 40s who are in Brisbane and who talk about fast, easy solutions for a better life. I just love listening to those two talk. If you want to suggest a guest for No Filter or just ask me a question or leave a comment, you can call the pod phone on 02 8999 9386 or flick me an email at podcast@mamamia.com.au. Today's show was produced by Eliza Ratliff for the Mamamia Women's Network. The executive producer of podcasts is Monique Bowley, and the head of content at Mamamia is Holly Wainwright.